6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The Victim in Prison Outreach Program, we are all doing time, so feel free to join us. Please note that the following views and the opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily the views nor the opinions of the Master Force Group, Free America Radio Network, our sponsors, our partners, and MFG is a private society, and nothing here is ever to be construed as medical nor legal advice. And listen to the Forbidden History prime time, 7 days a week, right here on therealpublicradio.net, because hidden beneath the sands of time lies the greatest of all mysteries. It's the Forbidden History. Unearth for yourself the secret truths that lie hidden just beneath the surface below our feet. What is it that the powers that be do not want you or I to know? Come and journey with us as we explore and dare to know, because it's all right here, coming your way 7 days a week on therealpublicradio.net, supported by the partners of Free America Radio Network and the Inside View Worldwide Radio Broadcasting Group, and all of you out there. Coming to you live from Studio Z at the Lighthouse in Southeast Georgia and Free America Radio Network in the land of dreams, enchantments, and nightmares, it's the Republic of Texas. Well, we're glad you're tuned in, ladies and gentlemen, because here is where we bring you the most important information on the face of the entire earth or under the earth. Here is where each week we bring you the very best in radio broadcast listening while we reveal the greatest secrets, what they didn't want you to know. But we tell right here, in the deeper mysteries of life, yet the one question that will always remain will be this: can you handle the truth as it will be presented here, this afternoon, this evening, tomorrow morning, in the future, wherever you are around the world? I don't know if you can handle the truth. I don't even know if you want the truth. But the truth is stranger than fiction, yet the truth can set you free. And the Texas Republic has always been here, and that's free too. And now sitting in for the Texas Republic, your host, Glenn Winningham.
Hi, how's it going?
Doing good, Glenn. I'm trying to find Bob, and not sure where he's at. I'll keep looking, though. I'm communicating with him on Instant Messenger.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, we're tied in by Instant Messenger, and okay. Now, Bob, tell me on Skype. Can you hear me right now? Are you on the conference line? I don't see your 7222. So, it may be that he can hear me. Why don't you clue people in what this is about, and I'm going to Skype with him, okay? And we'll see if we can't get him tied in.
Not a problem. Basically, there's back in the 90s, there was a group of people that figured out that the Republic of Texas never did join the Union. And in order for a union, for a sovereign nation, we all know that Texas was a republic way back when. In order for any sovereign nation, a treaty of annexation has to be done. And so Texas actually did do a treaty of annexation, but the treaty of annexation had to be sent to the U.S. Senate for approval and adoption. And they didn't approve it or adopt it. They shelved it. And so what they did was a House Joint Resolution, which is not an approval and adoption. And so therefore Texas still exists. And in fact, there's a Texas Supreme Court case, and there's also a World Court case that affirmed that. And if you look at, there's some other evidence of it. In fact, part of the original Republic of Texas includes land that is now in modern day Oklahoma, modern day Kansas, modern day New Mexico, modern day Colorado, and modern day Wyoming. And if you go to any of those state legislatures, you will see a Texas flag flying there. And and there's some other things going on too. There's a national power grid in the United States, but Texas has its own unique power grid that's completely separate from the United States power grid. There is also all land that is granted in the United States. I mean, I bought some land. I do land patents, and so I'm quite a student of this, quite frankly. So I've bought land in Arizona and brought forward the land patents. And the land patents were all issued by the President of the United States, and that's the same everywhere in the United States except Texas. Texas, all land is granted by the governor of Texas or the president, depending on how old the land patent is. There's a bunch of evidence to that fact. So, anyways, what happened is a bunch of people figured this out back in the 90s. And so they went and followed. The U.S. government actually follows a procedure it's called nation building, that brings to establish a government. And if you notice, if anybody knows what went on in Iraq after the U.S. went into Iraq, what they do is they set up a provisional government, and then after a period of time they hold elections, and then they have the regular government. And so that's what we did in Texas. I wasn't involved in that, but people I know were. And so they established a provisional government of the Republic of Texas, and then they started operating the regular government. They held elections and doing all that stuff. So, and I've got letters. It's amazing, when you know the power that you have. It's amazing. Because I've got a letter from the Texas, it's the Permian Basin Law Enforcement Association, where it's from this letter in Midland County, Texas, it's the county sheriff for Midland County, Texas, back in the 90s, where the letter is to Rice McLeod and some other guys who were involved in the Republic of Texas at that time. I guess they went out and visited with these guys out in West Texas, and anyways, this letter is saying that they sent back to them after their meeting. The letter is saying we're very interested in the Republic of Texas, and we want to know more. And this is the power of it. You have no idea the power of it. If you do things properly, all of a sudden, none of their stuff means anything. So that's what we're talking about today is the Republic of Texas. The Republic of Texas is alive and well and operating in Texas, and you can be a part of it, or you can do the same thing. There's in wherever you live too. What Tim Turner's doing actually is, I think it's correct, except that I'm not sure that he's doing everything the way he's supposed to be doing it, because I don't go into commerce, quite frankly, and I don't believe that a de jure nation should go into commerce. The Republic of Texas has the one we brought out of abeyance, is staying away from commerce. I think that's like a major mistake, and that's how they get you. And in fact, there's a U.S. Supreme Court case called the Clearfield decision case, and it's talking about a principle of law called laches. And what laches says basically is that if you don't assert your rights, you lose them. And so that was the Clearfield doctrine with the United States. It was what that case was about. But so if you go into commerce, there's no such thing as a sovereign in commerce. And if you go into commerce, you lose your sovereignty. So the best thing to do there, stay out of it. Yes.
Glenn, yes, we have Bob Wilson on with us right now.
All right. Bob, how you doing?
Doing all right. Sorry I got the time wrong, but here I am.
All right. Well, that's good. So, you heard my little spiel. Do you have anything you'd like to contribute to that?
Oh, not much. It's very hard for most people to imagine staying out of commerce because, until you understand what it is, it doesn't sound all that bad.
That's right. Now, just to introduce myself and Bob to the audience, Bob is a senator for the Republic of Texas, and so he was elected by the people of Texas to be a senator for the Republic of Texas, and he participates in their Congress meetings, and I am a charge d'affaires. I used to be the Speaker of the House of Representatives until I had to leave Texas for work. And so, they appointed me to the office of charge d'affaires, which is a diplomatic position. Since I travel around, I suppose, is something that I can help the Republic with. Anyways, Bob, why don't you go ahead and take the floor and start talking about some of the things you want to talk about?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Glenn. Yeah. As we thought a little bit together about a good way to launch these Saturday evening discussions here, it occurred to me that just for people to know at least some of the history of how Texas became a nation would be helpful. That's because without a context, a lot of things don't seem to make sense at first. So I'm going to give just a few words here about that, about the Battle of San Jacinto in April of 1836. And because of that battle, we can truly say we are not living in Mexico today. Because if we hadn't had that battle and won it, we'd still be living in Mexico. So why did that battle happen? I mean, was this just a bunch of Americans trying to do a land grab or something, because we've seen so much of that in current commercial governments. No, it was to survive. It was to try to stay alive. See, about 15 years before 1836, Mexico had won its independence from the nation Spain. And when it did win independence, it became a free republic. In fact, it imitated many of things that the states of America did when they united. Remember, it's not the United States of America as if all those were equal. It was the states of America united together in a confederate relationship. Well, the president of Mexico saw a need to settle the new Tejas land north of the Rio Grande River, which was now theirs as part of the treaty with Spain. the Independence Treaty. The problem was that when they tried to get the Mexican farmers to come up and settle in this land of Tejas, that the savage Comanches and Apaches who occupied that land kept attacking these new Tejano settlers from Mexico. And they were killing them, and they were better at it. They came down from the Rocky Escarpment to the west of Austin, San Antonio, swept down on them when they were least suspecting it, and wiped them out. At any rate, without settling some territory, your rights to claim it as yours start to evaporate. So Mexico recruited some Americanos to come down and start up homesteads among the Tejanos from Mexico. So they got along fine. They were all just farming and ranching, and they enjoyed each other's company as well as the mutual defense that they could provide against savage attacks. And things continued to improve for many years until there were little settlements and small towns in this area now called Texas. And that kept going until General Santa Anna, a general in the Mexican Army, was elected as President of Mexico. He was pretty grandiose in his idea of himself. He styled himself as the Napoleon of the West, wore the cocked hat, put his right hand inside of his vest, just like Napoleon of France, and abolished their new constitution and acclaimed himself a dictator. And on top of all of that, he hated these Americano gringos. He wanted to drive them out. So with his armies, he attacked the settlements of the Americans, and they were left with an ultimatum: flee or die. Many of them did flee, and some fought and died, up until the Alamo experience, when some experienced soldiers began to arrive, and of course they all died at the Alamo except for one soldier's wife, who was released to go tell the sad and horrible stories of the Alamo. Next, Santa Anna attacked the little town of Goliad. All the people there surrendered under a white flag of surrender, and he immediately slaughtered all of them, women and children included. That was when the Americanos really got upset. And a lot more experienced soldiers who had fought in the War of 1812 and many other wars, some of them even in the Revolutionary War, came down to Texas. And at that same juncture, Sam Houston was made the commanding general for the Provisional Texian Army. And some of you know the history of Texas better than I do, but that's what I learned by studying extensively. And when Sam Houston took over the Army, things began to change, but the officers thought they had changed for the worse, because Anna advanced, Houston ordered his army to retreat. And we'll kind of leave it there until next week. But we're going to open the phone lines for people who have comments and who have questions.
Okay, Bob, I'll be glad to help you out there. And anybody that has a comment or question regarding the Republic of Texas, then star 5 will raise your hand. Those people on the conference line, of course, you're right, you're good to go. And if you're on the stream, you're listening in, you do need to call in on that phone number there on the right-hand side of the home index page of the realpublicradio.net, Free America Radio Network. And want to welcome all of our listeners to the network, by the way. And there's still time to call your friends. This is a 2-hour presentation, and so we're just really getting started here. And I just want to add, Bob, I have been following the Texas Republic of Texas movement for, since the mid-1990s, I guess, at least. And I actually wrote a song for the Texas Republic back then called "We Are Texans Fighting to Be Free," and so I'm really honored to be bringing you friends on here tonight. I'm still Texan, even though I'm in Georgia. I have just shy of 20 years. Actually, no, I think I got about 20 years in Texas, and so it never really leaves you once you've been there that long. So we do have a caller, Bob, and let's bring on, looks like Sage out there in West Virginia.
Hello, Sage.
Sage, on. Sage, are you there? Going once? Come in, Sage.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay. I kept pressing the mute button, but I guess it didn't work. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say hi to everybody, and I was wondering if there was a website or any place where you can get more information and hear more about what you guys are doing.
Sure. That's a great question, Sage. Probably we should have said that already, but you've given us a good lead for that. The website is very simple. It's texasrepublic.info. texasrepublic.info. And when you get there, you'll see on the opening page a proclamation that I wrote as to what the Republic of Texas is here for, what we stand for.
Okay.
And at the top of that page, near the top, you can click on a link to enter the website. And when you go in there, you can find all kinds of things that will answer your questions. Of course, Texas Republic, the two words are run together with no space.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know if you're going to be talking about this more or not, but I'm interested in what you have to say about the staying out of the commerce and all that. So just anxious to hear what you have to talk about.
Okay. Well, what is, just for context, so we know where you are thinking right now, when you hear the words to stay out of commerce, what does that mean to you right now?
Well, I'm not sure what it exactly means, but for me, what I want to do is just get out of the normal system and be able to operate in freedom and without permission and licenses and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, good. Well, that's what it is. And for anybody listening that doesn't know the jargon of what we're doing, commerce, there's nothing wrong with commerce itself. It kind of makes the world go wrong. But when governments operate fraudulently, secretly, in commerce rather than in the way that governments are supposed to work, then it goes sour. Mm-hmm. They go sour in a big way. And, of course, the United States of America started as a republic in the classic sense of what that means. Incidentally, it'd be good for anybody listening, take a piece of paper and write down a republic is and give your best shot at defining what it is and maybe what it's not. Because nobody alive today has lived in a free republic, except those living in the free Republic of Texas. Because the United States has not been a free republic for a long, long time, over a century, unless we got some people.
That's true.
Yeah. Which is a shocking thing.
We can show that the United States has actually been under martial law since the Civil War.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that's a good reason, incidentally, not to have a civil war. Because the debts of war led to the indebtedness by which commerce was able to sneak its way in. Those who use that as their strategy, that is commerce, love debt, and war is the quickest way to rack up debt. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Yeah. So what happened, as far as I've heard, and the other hosts and maybe yourself and anybody else listening is free to chime in on this, to make it short and sweet, the Union Army and the Union itself had to go deeply into debt in order to try to defeat the Confederacy in the Civil War. And even though the Constitution explicitly forbids it, Lincoln's administration, and whether he knew about this and understood it, I don't know yet, But Lincoln's administration started issuing pieces of paper called greenbacks, which is unconstitutional. They were circulating as money. What they were is debt notes, just like the Federal Reserve notes are. They're just pieces of paper, receipts saying a debt exists.
Yeah, they're an IOU is what they are.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, a lot of people think that a Federal Reserve note is a promissory note because Title 12, United States Code, Section 411 says that Federal Reserve notes are evidence of the debt of the United States. But a promissory note, if you look that up in the law dictionary, a promissory note has to have a promise to pay. And Federal Reserve notes have no promise to pay. So they are not a promissory note. They're just an IOU. And there's no promise to pay anything on those things.
Yeah. So those who are more flush with those things feel good that there's plenty of, quote, money in their pocket. But there isn't. There's just debt certificates or IOUs. Now, if somebody from the de facto USA listened in, they would say, but it says right there that they're based on the full faith and credit of the United States government. Well, how much of that is there left at this point in history? Who has faith and how much credit do they have?
Good point.
It's bankrupt.
Yes.
And in fact,
yeah.
If you go to the Dun & Bradstreet website and do a search for the United States of America in the District of Columbia, you'll come up with the United States of America 4 Corp, the number 4, which means the first 3 were liquidated in bankruptcy and we're on number 4.
Right. Number 4, yeah. Yeah, and so what happened was after all those many, I don't know the quantity, of these greenbacks were issued,
$400 million.
They had about a 49 or 50-year maturity time, which means that starting from 1863, we get up to 1913, thereabouts, and those debts became due and payable. Well, the money that was circulating was based on loans from foreign bankers in many different countries who wanted to have a bigger say in this amazing thing that was happening over here in America. Bankers enjoy that. So the bankers' heirs and representatives came to the Treasury of the U.S. sometime around 1913 and said, pay up. The Treasury said, how much? And by the time they got all the interest for the past 50 years, it was more money than existed in the Treasury or ever had. And when they come and insist that you pay your lawful debt and you can't, the only outcome is bankruptcy. So even though we revere Abe Lincoln, and I appreciate him as a man very much, his administration prepared the way for foreign financial interests to take over the U.S. Treasury. Once they take over the Treasury, they have a stranglehold on, guess who? The government, because all the people in the government are paid by the Treasury. Is it making sense?
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, Congress voted for a bill to begin something called the Federal Reserve, which was nothing more than a bankster's, that's the combination of banker and gangster, you know. And it became the way that the banksters would run the country. Well, in order to avoid the clear rules of the Constitution, what this Federal Reserve and the representatives of the foreign bankers did was they started a corporation. They incorporated the government. Now, they can't incorporate America, the continent, or the States United, but they incorporated the government. And ever since then, because it's a corporation, it runs like a business. Now, a corporation cannot have dealings with a flesh and blood woman like you are, Sage. And so it calls you a corporation. But the word, the trickster word, is a person, P-E-R-S-O-N. And so you'll see person on every law. All persons driving motor vehicles must this and that, Well, persons mostly in the de facto commerce language means corporations. So when you were born, the government required a birth certificate. The birth certificate became a certificate that here's another person, another corporation for the big corporation, U.S., to do business with and to exploit. Mm-hmm. And so when you feel like you would like to escape all of the tentacles of the big corporation, you're right, because it has its tentacles everywhere.
Did you mention the website there, Bob, by the way?
Yes, Sage asked that up front. It's texasrepublic.info.
Okay, good.
Yes, and you can go there while we're on air here. Did you have further questions on that, Sage?
Well, excuse me. I guess if there's nobody else with a question, I have several questions I could ask. I'm just curious, how do you operate? Do you operate, then would you call that in the private or?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
That's a great question, too. You have a lot of insight, clearly. In the Texas Republic government, we have to draw a very clear line between public and private. Sometimes, in order to get things done, like getting money minted, it seems like you're stepping across that clear division line. And something has to happen. There has to be some way to buy the silver or the copper or the gold, some way to pay the mint, and so on. The Texas Republic operates as a government, but not a commercial interest. And so the Constitution of the Texas Republic dictates that the money of this nation, Texas, shall be designed by, the value assigned to it by, and all of the rest by Congress, not by the courts and not by the presidential executive part of it. So that's their job. One of their jobs is not just to make laws, but to establish a monetary system. So one of the first things that I did upon becoming elected as a senator in the Republic was set in motion and convince the rest of the Congress that we had to have our own money. And I forget, it was 2+ years ago we started the process of that, and also a little over 2 years ago that we released our first coin, which we carefully call a medallion. If you're among gorillas, you should never pick up a sharp stick and poke it in their eye. And any time that people mention money in something like the Republic of Texas, the Federal Reserve seems to think that it has a corner on the word money, on the word currency. They don't, but they believe that, and they've projected that image. So just to give them nothing to fight about, we call these round metal things medallions. And if they get real pushy with us, we'll say anybody in the world, and certainly anybody in North America, can produce a commemorative medallion about anything. Now, that's what we did because it doesn't fall under their purview at all, and they know it. So the thing is, what gives money value is not the number stamped on it. What gives money value is what will somebody give you for it if you cash it in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Okay.
So just let me give a little bit of background on that. This is how the government is operating. Congress, after some discussion, agreed that 1 ounce of silver would have a face value stamped on it of 50. And in fact, the word 50, F-I-F-T-Y, stamped on it. And so people say 50 what? Well, we would never say $50 because dollars are a Federal Reserve word. It's just 50 barter units, 50 trade units, whatever. What's it worth? Well, it's worth whatever the seller of something will give you for it. Because money has to have its own intrinsic value. Now, those who understand money understand that money without its own intrinsic value, what it's worth as you put it in your hand, isn't money at all. You know, there's a good story that's circulated on the internet a lot that a member of Congress, actually a U.S. senator, this is not true, but it's a good story, stood up one day in the Senate and started telling the Senate that money is nothing but a mutually shared illusion, and then began to prove it. And before he could finish, senators were running for the exits, yelling and screaming, because he had blown the whistle on everything that the U.S. government was doing. Those paper dollars are a mutually shared illusion that there's some wealth there when there's not. Mm-hmm. But an ounce of silver, at the time we started that, cost us a little over $17 US. And by the time you get it made into nice, pure blanks of the right thickness and diameter, and by the time you have those minted to a mirror-like finish, a proof grade, it was more like $20. So we stamped 50 on them, knowing that within our lifetime, probably within the next decade or sooner, it would take $50 US to equal one of those ounces of silver. So that's just the monetary side of this, but it's part of the answer to your questions. Mm-hmm. How do we cover both the public and private side? The Republic of Texas has never been in debt. You know, since we restored it and had the Constitution amended by the people in 2007, those were not the same event, but by 2007 we had the original Constitution updated and amended to cover several things that were really significantly different. One of which, the original Constitution held that only men could vote, and so obviously we've put in there that women could vote. And don't blame them for it. That was just the way that everybody thought in the early 1800s. You can't blame.
It also talked about slavery.
What?
It also talked about slavery.
Yes, it does. It talks about slavery.
Okay, so you took the original Texas Constitution and worked with it?
Yes, the original Texian Constitution. It said who could vote, and it said slaves couldn't and women couldn't, basically. Well, like I just said before, I don't hold them responsible for that because the whole world thought that. Mm-hmm. It was never an issue then. But since then, enlightenment has come, and so Congress, back in the early 2000s, saw the necessity to bring amendments to the Constitution, would bring it up to harmonize with the state of society and the worldview today. So it doesn't allow slavery, and it allows all races and all genders to vote. So that was one of the first things we did too, and that was before I arrived on the scene. The amending of the Constitution, but with all of that, things began to move forward. Have I answered some of your questions?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. You know, just for anybody else who's listening, I must have taken the wrong notes when we set this up a week or so ago, because I had the program starting at 8 p.m. Central Time, and it's 7 p.m. Central Time, I find out tonight.
You missed a great opening, Bob. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
you can hear it on the replay, though. Don't worry about it. And
yeah.
That's the nature of us, starting new programming, and anything that can happen possibly will.
So,
you want to take another caller?
Anybody else?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. And by the way, at the top we will be going to a station ID. You'll hear some music in the background, and just take your time. We don't have to stop right at the top, but you'll hear the music. That means finish your point, and then whenever you're done, that's when we'll go to a station ID. And you are listening to the Republic of Texas program right here every Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the RealPublicRadio.net. And I want to welcome all of our listeners. And we have people from all over. And we've got Florida, Florida, New York City, Big Apple, and we've got, of course, Texas. We've got all over Texas, Houston and Carthage, Brenham, and Star 5 will raise your hand, okay? So if you have a comment or a question for Senator Bob Wilson of the Republic of Texas, then hit that Star 5. We have a lot of people on the stream as well. If you want to get involved with the conversation, then you have to call in on the number, okay? So that's on the right-hand side right there on the home index page of the RealPublicRadio.net. So Star 5. I guess a lot of people are still trying to maybe figure out what the Republic of Texas is all about, because it's sort of an enigma. It's probably got people turning their heads trying to figure out. Okay, they heard of the state of Texas, and it seems to be it would be generally common knowledge that Texas originally was a nation. And as I understand it, Bob, that it seems to me the trick and the trade occurred, or the trap occurred right around the Civil War, right? They got Texas into the Civil War, and then all of a sudden, presto magico, we had a state of Texas, and I don't even know how that happened.
Mm-hmm. Texas was a nation in 1864, was it? The date you just mentioned was what? Was the Civil War?
Well, yeah. In other words, somehow it seems to me, as I remember the history, they brought Texas into the Civil War, and that was probably the Achilles heel that they never should have gotten involved, but it probably was because you had the secret handshake club, on both sides working together, the secret societies, and so it was probably, an Illuminati plan to get the Republic of Texas into the Union, right? And so that's something.
I got you now. Yeah. Okay, that's a good question, and I'll quickly answer it. The battle that won independence was fought near the Gulf of Mexico on the San Jacinto River, and that was in 1836. The battle lasted about 17 minutes, and that was because of the strategy by General Sam Houston. So the nation officially began in 1836. Now, sometime in 1945, nearly 10 years later, a new president was...
1845.
Yeah, 1845, nearly 10 years after 1836. A new president of the Republic of Texas was visited by some people from Washington, D.C., and before Congress could be called into session, because they didn't meet year-round, they met briefly back then, he announced that Texas was going to accept an offer from the USA to become a state in the USA. Well, according to the Constitution, he had no authority to either do that. It would have had to have gone through several steps, and the main one of which would be that people would have had to vote on that. It never came to the people. It never came to the Congress because he sent writers to tell the members of the Congress of the Republic of Texas to stay home because this change had happened. Now, there are varying stories about what really went on, but basically either somebody convinced him and he never checked the Constitution, or he wanted this to happen. At any rate, Texas was made a state in 1845 and was a state up until it backed out for the Civil War and tried to resume being a nation. And when the South, that is among the rebel South, and when the South lost the war, then immediately soldiers and politicians came into Texas and basically forced Texas to accept all of its rules because they had military might. And that's when it went into, you might call it, hibernation, because Texans never agreed for that to happen. It was just a force of war. So about 2000, maybe even into the 90s, various people just started discovering that Texas never stopped being a nation. It's just that an outcome of a civil war forced the hand of the people here. And since it was never lawfully stopped from being a nation, the people who saw that truth simply resurrected the nation.
Right. Bob, wasn't it, I believe it was Richard McLaren, a paralegal, who had actually discovered that? Do you know that story?
I'm not familiar with that, but I've heard the name McLaren, and it's very probable, yes.
Yeah, he ended up in prison, apparently, because some dispute occurred in West Texas. I don't remember how that ensued, but the federales, went after some of those people, and it was pretty messy, and so they wanted to silence them, and I rounded them up. We do have another caller. Were you done with your point,
Sure.
Bob?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, good. We're right near the top, so why don't we just take a station ID break real quick, and then we'll bring on the next caller, and you are tuned in right here to the Republic of Texas. Now, every Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, premiering tonight, which is, get the correct date here, January 21st, 2012, the year of the Mayan calendar. And it's pretty interesting times we live in. We got the old and the new. And we've got all of you out there. I want to welcome all of our listeners to therealpublicradio.net. I'm your host, actually not the host. Glenn Winningham is the host here on this program, but I'm the producer of the network, Desert Owl. And we open up every evening on this network at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, myself and Sage, with the original gospel of Jesus Christ. So you're welcome to tune in. If you missed it, you can go to the instant replay line. Anytime you miss programming or you come in late, you can go to the replay line and you can listen right from there if you want to, even if you're 10 minutes late. It's on the program schedule. Just scroll down a little bit. You'll see it on the right-hand side. And we've got we're back with our Victim in Prison Outreach Program, back officially tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We are all doing time, the Victim in Prison Outreach Program. So join myself and Tim Bowman. We deal with stories that are tragic and dealing with government oppression and all things in between, mind control. So you're welcome to join us. And we're trying to make it a better world, but we can't do it without you. And then after we are all doing time, then it's my program with Sage, Starfire Chronicles, where we talk about the esoteric nature of the universe, ancient writings, how it all began, living manas. My claim is that there are no UFOs. They're all identified, and they're from the ancient past. And it's one of the great mysteries, okay? So if you want to know about that, feel free to join us. Love to have you. But I do have to tell you one thing, okay? And that is we don't live on thin air, okay? We actually need some of that funny money in order to continue operating, and we're in a pretty desperate struggle right now. This is actually the worst month in 4 years since I've been doing the network, and we had our phones shut off last month, and we had the grace of a wonderful sponsor turn them back on. But this month, at the end of the month here, it's going to be turned off again, and it's going to be twice as much on the bill because the arrears is a couple $100. We've got 3 phone bills, a streaming bill, not to mention rent and electric and other, server bills from, our server accounts, and it's all. And I got a part-time job to help, to pay it all off, but it's not enough, okay? And so we're in a dire strait, and if you want to help us out, boy, we could sure use it, okay? And we have a PayPal button on several places, on the contact page, on the urgent tab, and any size donation. If everybody would just, consider a $5 bill or a 10 if you can afford it. If you can afford more, we sure could use it. But it's we're not commercial, okay? If you look at our network, we're not trying to sell you a Berkey water filter or anything else. We don't sell anything. We give away a lot of information on our network, and there's also a sample of our Real Da Vinci Code dictionary, and we can't even afford to print the next batch. We're actually taking orders in advance in order to be able to print. We're going to print probably 25 at a time. So if you want to get involved in that, then, we certainly would love you to join us, because we're making history, being a part of history. I'm an expert in ancient symbolism and word etymology, and you'll see the sample of the dictionary, okay? Go check it out. And also I recommend looking at 1 John, the sample translations right there. Actually a transliteration based on original thought. I'm making history with the ancient scriptures, okay? And it's a fact. I'm sorry to blow away all the theological seminarians and all of the modern dogmatic translators, because they missed the whole mark. But we're making history, and see and read it for yourself, won't you? And thanks for your consideration. We hope to be back next month as well. And I'm Desert Owl. Thank you for that. Okay, and now back to the Republic of Texas and Glenn Winningham. Glenn, we do have some people standing by with their hands raised. I just wanted to give it back to you for a moment.
Okay, yeah, sure. Well, Bob was doing pretty good on it, and he is, really the more appropriate spokesman for the Republic of Texas, and so, go ahead.
Well, Glenn, before you give it back to Bob, why don't you real quick tell people what you do and how they can find your website?
Oh, okay. Well, I was visited again. I have I've got a bunch of videos that I've uploaded to YouTube. I was visited by the FBI and the Texas State Police here last March, and during their visit, they told me that I'm listed as sovereign in their system, and this is consistent with what the courts have said. And this is the whole idea behind the Republic of Texas, quite frankly, is that all the people are sovereign, and the only authority held by the government is authority that people delegated to the government. And if you understand what delegate means, it means that if you can revoke your delegation anytime you want, and you can only delegate the authority that you have. And so, anyways. I was Speaker of the House of Representatives for about 18 months, for the Republic of Texas back in about 2007, I guess, 2008, around there. And before I had to leave Texas for work. And so during that time frame, I was doing things to administrate my public officials, and as a result of that, they put me down as sovereign in their system. And I can show you court cases that say that, at the Revolution, the sovereignty devolved on the people, and they have all the rights of the king. And so, and obviously they understood that in Texas, because the FBI and the Texas State Police actually came to me, and we had a nice little talk for about a half an hour. And after it was all done, it was very cordial, and we shook hands, and I'm still in touch with those guys. But so once you understand the law, and this is what the big thing with the Republic of Texas is, if technically, I guess I could say I don't need the Republic of Texas, because I can get along just fine without them. But as good Christians, we're supposed to take care of the widows and the orphans and people that are maybe don't have all day to be studying law and things like that, to understand all the little tricks that they do. And so if you have good government, then good government will be protecting your rights. But Bob Wood mentioned that they set up a corporation. So there's actually two United States of America. And I've seen court cases from back in the 1700s where the court said that you couldn't sue the government. And the reason you couldn't sue the government is because the government is the people. And it's like suing yourself. And so this is further evidence that there's two separate entities, because now you can sue the government all day long. So, anyways, my website is www.sovereigntyinternational. That's all one word. www.sovereigntyinternational.info. And I've also got a Yahoo group that's administrating your public servants at yahoo.com. Another group at Google with the same name. You're welcome to go there and join, and I've got a bunch of files uploaded that show my procedure on what I did and how anybody can do it. You can make it so that they don't want to talk to you. If you do it properly, they'll see you and turn and run the other direction. And this is all stuff that Bob is into in varying ways, but he's more into establishing de jure government, because that's really where our ultimate remedy is basically reestablishing our own de jure government that's sitting here waiting for us to operate it. All we have to do is start to operate it, and there's court cases that say, back in the 90s there was a guy that got his rights violated, and this is something I heard about in Texas. Guy that got his rights violated in Richardson, Texas. I think it was Richardson. This is in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Anyways, what happened is he went and took it to a local grand jury, which was just, 26 citizens, and they went and handed down an indictment, and then based on that indictment, this was under the Republic of Texas. Based on that indictment, they brought it to a common law jury of 12 citizens, and the city of Richardson, they thought it was a big joke, eh? They didn't pay any attention to it. The common law jury sent them a summons and demanded, that a summons is telling them to appear and answer these charges, and they didn't appear or anything, and so they got convicted. And this conviction was sent to Dun & Bradstreet, and the next thing you know, they couldn't get insurance. They couldn't get bonds. They couldn't build freeways or any of the stuff these cities like to do. So they went and brought an action in the Texas courts, in what we in the Republic of Texas call the de facto courts, because they don't have any authority. Anyways, they brought an action in the de facto courts in Texas, and you know what the judge said in that matter? The judge said, I can't do anything about this. He says, if I did something like this, then I'd lose my bond. And so that city of Richardson is still basically, they had to either I don't know what the conviction involved, whether it was a fine or whatever. They had to settle that matter somehow, or else that thing is still there to this day. And at common law, and I've seen court cases that common law, there's the decision of a common law jury is not subject to appeal, and it's final, and there's no discussion about it, and that is very powerful, and that's what the Republic of Texas is all about. There are common law juries operating in Texas, and they're very powerful. You just don't know the power that you have, and that's what the Republic of Texas is all about.
Outstanding, Glenn. Okay, and Bob, we have a question. You ready?
Sure. Go ahead. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes. And we have Carthage, Texas. Just state your first name and you're in Carthage.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
What's your first name?
It's Ed Branham.
It's Ted?
Ed?
Ed. Okay, Ed, you're on with Bob Wilson.
Yeah, I think I met you, me and Rice met you in Temple several years ago at a Golden Corral up there.
Oh, wait a minute. Are you talking to me?
Uh-huh.
Oh, is that that's when I played the song, right? We are Texans fighting to be free. You were there?
That's correct.
Okay, well, good to meet you again. Yeah.
I've been with the Republic of Texas from the beginning. So
well, so was I.
What I was going to ask Bob is on that question a while ago of the Civil War and all that kind of stuff. See, what we have done and proved that after 1845, everything after that is a fraud, because the state of Texas, we have absolute proof from Dun and Bradstreet that all the courts in the state of Texas are courts of commerce and have been since 1845.
Mm-hmm.
And that was long before the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't the Republic of Texas joining the Civil War, it was the state of Texas.
Correct.
So
mm-hmm.
I just wanted to throw that in there for Bob's.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
See, Texas did not secede the land. Even in the resolution the United States did, there was no secession of land.
Right.
So in 1861, when the Civil War started, the people took a vote to secede from the United States, and they didn't have to. The United States wouldn't accept it, and rightfully so, because they never ceded the land in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's that Texas versus White, which was a U.S. Supreme Court over Texas seceding from the United States, and the Supreme Court said they can't secede. Well, it's a moot decision because Texas didn't have to secede. It was never part of the United States.
But the people didn't understand that.
No, that's right, and the court's only going to rule on the issues that are presented, and the issue that was presented was over secession.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's correct. Okay, Bob, that's all. I just throwing that in there.
Sure, that's good. That's good.
Okay, Ed, and good to be with you again. What a small republic. All right,
Yeah.
and a big one at the same time. Okay, and Ed, we're going to meet you back out. And
okay.
All right, good talking to you again. And so, anybody else out there who wants to join in, if you're trying to figure something out about Texas, and its origin, or you have an observation, what have you, okay, then come on down and hit *5. And we have a lot of people right now, both on the stream and on the conference line, and a lot of listeners, and I don't see any takers. I can't believe it. People are tuned in. They're trying to figure out what about how can someone, like, if they were, let's say, in New Jersey or somewhere else, Bob, could they also be a part of the Republic of Texas, or do you have to be within a certain geographical location?
I think anybody can participate, but I think that to vote, you need to reside on the land called Texas. Now, the good news is that the land called Texas goes all the way to Wyoming, which is another worthwhile point for people to consider. The land that was won during that war in 1836 was Texas and most things north and west of it. If you recall, the Louisiana Purchase that was negotiated by the president at the time, the famous Tom Jefferson, was the eastern boundary of the land that became Texas. Of course, Texas was not a state; it was just a part of Mexico at the time. But the boundaries of the area were Louisiana on the right. There was no Oklahoma on the north at the time. There was no New Mexico on the west, and so on. But the piece of land looks like the present map of the state of Texas, but a lot taller, with a sort of a chimney sticking all the way into Wyoming. So parts of Oklahoma and now New Mexico and Colorado and Kansas and Wyoming were all included in the Texas that began in 1836.
And as I envision it now, getting a picture in my mind, essentially what that implies also is that the Rio Grande River, right from the Gulf of Mexico all the way up to its headwater in Colorado, would have been in the Republic of Texas, the entire Rio Grande River.
Yeah, actually, that was the western border.
Okay, that was the western border. Okay,
and it goes all the way up to Wyoming.
Yeah, I think it goes right through the center or the center eastern portion of New Mexico, right through Albuquerque. I used to live out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and so then everything west of there is part of Texas, and that keeps going up into Colorado. So then everything west of, I should say, east of east of that, is part of Texas, and parts of New Mexico, parts of Kansas, and there's even, I mean, if you look on that map, there's even parts of Wyoming. They're parts of Texas. And each of those state legislatures, if you go to those state legislatures, you'll see there's a Texas flag flying there.
Right. Okay, we've got a couple callers, and we're going to take them in order. And we've got Yoakum, Texas. Just state your first name, if you would, please. You're on with Bob Wilson.
This is Bob Taylor.
Hello, Bob.
Yeah, I was going to add a little bit about the Rio Grande River. It begins just southeast of the Arkansas River in Colorado. And I've been up there. I've seen the headwaters in Colorado of the Rio Grande. But Ed was talking a while ago about being part of the Republic of Texas. He became a citizen on December the 8th, 1995, at the same time that I became a citizen. At that time, we had to sign the affidavit that we would declare ourselves citizens and not members of the Republic of Texas.
Good. And why don't you mention, Bob, how a person becomes a Texian today?
Well, he has to live in Texas 6 months or more, and he has to, before he can hold office, he has to swear an oath of allegiance to the Republic of Texas, and it has to be affirmed under Almighty God. And some people want to call us members, but the Boy Scouts have members and the Lions Club have members. But the Republic of Texas has no members. They're citizens.
So basically, anybody who lives on the land of Texas, which goes all the way to Wyoming as a connected unit, can be a Texian, can be a citizen, but to vote, they right now, I suppose, have to live, on the land within the state boundaries, or can they live up in Colorado?
Right now, we consider those people in Colorado on the east side of the Rio Grande River as Texians.
Okay, good. So
right, that would make sense because but they still would have to, if they wanted to participate, they'd have to take the oath and all that.
Yes, right.
Yeah. Some people listening may be wondering, well, what does the Republic of Texas actually do other than have a radio talk show here? So if that's your question, let us know, or if one of the other gentlemen here wants to address the question.
Right.
What do we do?
And Bob?
Yes.
Are you doing a follow-up, or are you good? We have another caller.
I'm just waiting for a caller.
Well, no, I'm talking to Bob in Yoakum, Texas.
Oh, no. We will have no personal taxes in the Republic of Texas. Most of the offices that we see in the Republic of Texas are de facto government. As a de jure common law government, we plan to have our taxes from imports coming in over the Texas border from whatever means it might be, whether it's airplanes, trucks, ships, buses, or whatever. And that means coming across Louisiana and most of Oklahoma, but all of Louisiana. And so that's, some people ask, why don't you have to have income tax? Our government is not going to be that big. And if we don't have income tax, people will have a lot more money to spend, and there'll be a lot more people interested in moving to Texas to become citizens.
That's right. And the follow-up on that, if the government isn't that big, then it's also not intrusive because it doesn't have the manpower to be that intrusive into people's lives.
That's true. Texas is the 11th largest economy in the world today. It's larger in land and economy both than all of Spain, France, England, and Germany. And they can be nations, and there's no reason that Texas can't stand alone as a nation today.
Maybe it'd be worthwhile talking a little bit till someone else calls in. If we have another call, or let's hear them. But
no, we've got more callers, Bob.
But a question for them to think about is, what differentiates Texas as a nation from Texas as a state? So go on to your next caller.
Okay. Yeah, well, I don't, just off the top of my head, I don't think there's any. I mean, it's such a contrast, right? Okay.
There's no comparison.
Yeah. We've got Charlotte, North Carolina, and just state your name and a first name, please.
First name is Daryl.
Hi, Daryl. Good to have you. You're on with Bob Wilson.
Yes. Quick question. When you're filing motions and you're going into court and you're challenging jurisdiction into a private organization or private corporation, aren't you granting them jurisdiction when you're participating in their forum?
Which court are you referring to, Del?
County courts, superior courts, district courts.
Okay, well, if we're a separate nation...
I think he's talking about the de facto courts.
The de facto court, the municipal tribunal court.
Yeah. See, since we're a separate nation, we have nothing to do with the de facto U.S. or the de facto Texas or any of those corporate governments. And so our people simply go to a county judge, and here the counties are much, much bigger than the counties, listed on the state of Texas map. I live in Robertson County and represent it, which consists of somewhere between 10 and 20 of the counties shown on the state of Texas map. But if you have a problem, and it's a problem with law, typically within the Republic of Texas, your first stop is your county sheriff. And you say, here, I've got a complaint. I have a problem. Now, he's your first stop because we don't have all those other offices. If he sees merit in your complaint, then he can, if he decides, investigate it He can also arrange a time and place for a hearing. He can call a judge either from that Republic county or a nearby one, and that judge is a moderator and has no authority other than to maintain order. Everything is different. It's a complete paradigm change from everything that you grew up with and that you've read about your whole life. It's the way it was in the early 1800s when the U.S. operated as a republic, and Texas was an equal republic just to the south of the republic called U.S., or actually States United. So there's really no comparison. If the jury of the peers who live around the person complaining and the person answering the complaint decides that there is a case there, then they also decide what the rectification should be. Should there be some sort of a financial settlement? Should there be property returned, or whatever it is? So all of the things that have been invented in the so-called legal systems are gone. As a matter of fact, most of them won't pass muster with the original U.S. Constitution either. Does that kind of show you where we're at?
Oh, yeah, I understand. I was just wondering, when people go in there and walk in and they're challenging jurisdiction, and then the court decides that they have it based off of his hidden contracts that he may have, and they just continue jurisdiction throughout the entire litigation because they have this some kind of hidden quasi contract on him, which grants them their jurisdiction to hear the case.
Yeah, well, that doesn't sound like the kind of thing that would even be considered by a sheriff or a jury in the Republic of Texas.
Okay.
The key is, and that's what I talk about in my website and in my procedure, is to make it so that they don't want to talk to you. And if you lay a proper foundation, okay, you have to understand the United States is under martial law and has been for decades. And martial law works on presumption, and so you have to defeat their presumptions. And the best time to defeat any presumption is before they even see you on the radar. And that's why they put me down as sovereign in their system, because I put them in the position that if they even look at me wrong, I file a criminal complaint against them, and the next thing you know, the guy's gone. And so they basically put the word out saying, leave this guy alone. And so, you know, that's essentially what you have to do is you have to go, you know, on the attack administratively, and even in their system, if you do it properly, they'll leave you alone. They will not want to talk to you. They will turn, they will see you and turn and run the other direction.
Okay.
And they understand that they truly don't have jurisdiction over us.
Right.
That's right.
In fact, yeah, knowledge is your strongest weapon here. Knowledge of the truth is your strongest weapon. Now, let's say that one Texian felt he'd been cheated by another Texian. Then they would go through the process that I described. They would go to the sheriff, explain it. The sheriff might ask for evidence, written or otherwise, and proceed from there. But if it stops at the sheriff because he says, this is just an argument, you guys go settle it, it's over, you know.
Okay.
And that's why we say that the local sheriff is the highest level of law enforcement in the Republic, which is true.
Even in the de facto, the sheriff is the highest level of law enforcement.
Except they don't act like it.
Well, in some counties, but a lot of that is because of their own ignorance, you know, because of the fact that they've been trained to do certain things. But even now, there's like Sheriff Richard Mack, you know, that sheriff in Arizona that challenged the Brady bill, and he's going around educating sheriffs about what their lawful responsibilities are. And so there's a lot of sheriffs that are starting to stand up to them and say, hey, you can't do this. And then the next thing you know, they go away.
But Glenn, I want to jump in. If that sheriff, though, is a member of the Secret Handshake Club of International Freemasonry, then at that point, the Grand Lodge, Grand Poobah, is the supreme ruler in that county.
You're right.
Yeah, but as with anything, okay, and that's what my procedure does too, is with anything, is if there's criminals, as in any case, whether there's criminals in any walk of life, and when you're dealing with anything, you have to build a case against them, and then prosecute them. And so if you have a sheriff that's perjuring his oath, because that's what that is, that's called perjury of oath, you build a case against them, and the next thing you know, even in the de facto system, I've gotten attorney generals removed, I've gotten all sorts of people removed, because, again, you build a case against them, you bring up the right issues, and they will take care of it for you.
Yeah. And that's because the things that they had been doing were not only illegal, they were unlawful. They were both.
That's right.
They were unlawful under our law, and they were illegal under their de facto codes.
Yes. Daryl, are you finished, or do you have a follow-up?
No, that's pretty much that was pretty much the question, how to deal with them and their oaths of office. And the jurisdiction thing, I looked at Glenn's videos and the sovereignty issues and the citizenship issues, and I just see people, I go to court sometimes, just sit back and watch, and I go in there and see people just plead and argue the merits of the case, and I say, wow, at what point could they stop and just put a jurisdictional bar on everything?
Yes, you're right. Incidentally, since you're in North Carolina, is that correct?
Yes.
As things move ahead, and they are moving ahead rapidly here in the Republic of Texas, you and others of like mind in North Carolina could begin to assert the same thing there that we have done here. In other words, the only difference is that at one point Texas truly was a nation. When it began as a nation. That may not be true of North Carolina. I doubt that it is. But what is being done to people in North Carolina is unlawful.
Right.
And so as a result, assemble some like-minded people, get in touch with us here. We can give you a lot of help, including samples on how to move forward in setting yourself free from overreaching government.
Yeah.
Because, remember, they are corporations fraudulently representing themselves as a government.
Right.
Okay.
Right,
Darryl?
they don't have any authority.
Right.
Okay. Daryl, thank you for your call.
Thank you.
Okay, and we're going to mute you out. We got another caller standing by. So let me see. Is this the one here? Okay, there we go. And now we've got a caller from Arlington, Texas. Just state your first name. You're on with Bob Wilson.
Hello, Bob. This is George.
Hello, George. How are you doing?
I am good, my friend. It's interesting. I've lived in Texas all my life, and have only heard of this Republic of Texas very, very little. And so, even as a Texan, it's really pretty foreign and strange to me. One of the questions I had was if a person became a Texian, what becomes of our relationship with the federal government, with our state government, in relation to, say, if I needed to call 911 and get fire department or police help, are they still obligated to respond to someone who is a sovereign?
Okay, I appreciate the essence of your question. The short and somewhat comical answer is they wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah, exactly.
They wouldn't have a clue. You say, I live on such and such a street, they'd look at their map and say, well, we got to go there because he's part of our problem,
Well, I mean, what if I didn't pay? Say I was no longer required to pay property taxes, if I understand right, as a Texian. Is there some way that they could mark me as we don't have to respond to him for any kind of service? I mean, could they do that?
They wouldn't be likely to agree or cooperate. But as Glenn Fern implied earlier, you can do some things on your own initiative to preempt them so that they'd be very reluctant to make any proceedings against you.
Okay.
And specifically, just a very brief summary statement. You can get more information if you ask for it. You challenge their jurisdiction in writing. You deny it in writing. You have that notarized and you record that in a courthouse after you've sent it to them. Excuse me, you have it recorded first and then you send it to them and send it repeatedly. And their failure to respond is their agreement that your premise was correct. Did I say that clear enough? And they will fail to respond because they're a corporation, and you, George, are not.
Mm-hmm.
They can only deal with another corporation.
Even in their system, they don't have any authority. In other words, if you do some research, the United States is a good example. You go to the Office of Law Revision Counsel, and it tells you which statutes are positive law. And if you look up the definition of positive law means that it was properly enacted. And a good example is Title 26 United States Code, which is the Internal Revenue Code, is not positive law. It says right there on the U.S. Congress's website. And that's the Office of Law Revision Counsel, is the U.S. Congress website. And so, anyways, the point being is that if it's not positive law, it's not properly enacted. In other words, the short and sweet of it is that there is no Income Tax Act, okay? And so you have to bring that issue up. The same thing with Social Security. There is no Social Security Act. Most of these acts in Texas, there is no Transportation Act. And so you start bringing that stuff up, and now you're putting them in the position of impersonating a public official, which in Texas is a felony. And so you start pointing that stuff out to them up front, to where they cannot deny it, and now in a way that you can prove, okay, in court. And that's when they put you down as sovereign in their system, because they're basically. There's a friend of mine in Texas that came up to me one time, and he says a cop came up to him and said, quote, "Why is my computer telling me to leave you alone?" And that's what they'll do, is they'll put you in their computer system saying, "Leave this guy alone, because if you mess with him, he's going to have your ass in jail."
Huh. Well, I guess that kind of brings me back to my point. If they have me in their system, where it would say to leave him alone, would they not also have me in their system to say he's not paying property taxes for us to come out and provide him fire service or whatever it is?
Point number one, George, is that your property taxes do not pay for that service.
That's right. That's right. And if you understand what taxes pay for what, okay, they have a duty. They cannot discriminate against you for one reason or another. And so if they're going to have the firemen there, or the policemen there, they have to provide you the services just like everybody else. And whether you're paying property taxes is completely immaterial, and the property taxes don't pay for that, quite frankly. But at any rate, that's completely immaterial point, and you could sue them, quite frankly, in their court if they decided they weren't going to give you that service simply because of the fact that you weren't paying for property taxes. The same thing with schools. There's a federal executive order saying that they cannot deny people to go to schools, and part of property taxes is to pay for schools, and so they cannot deny that either. The point is that they have ways, they have legitimate ways of getting money to pay for these things, and they're not doing it because these taxes promote their socialist agenda. And the only way that anything is going to change is if we stand up and we start saying, well, you can't make me do it, and I'm not going to. And that's all there is to it. And until people start standing up and saying enough, they're going to keep doing it. And that's the only way you can affect change.
I agree.
And long before something else happens, they'll probably go bankrupt and won't be able to say much of anything.
There you
go. I
go.
mean, bankrupt to where they won't make the paychecks to those officials.
Yeah.
That's right. And all of their stuff is an illusion. I don't know if you've seen that movie, The Matrix, but if you haven't, you ought to go watch it because everything is an illusion. And once you understand the law and what's going on, it's everything is an illusion, and you start pointing it out to them, and then all of a sudden, they don't want to talk to you anymore.
Okay. Well, I appreciate all the info. It sounds like I need to begin digging and beginning to understand these things. So, Bob, you said if I would ask, I could find out. So I'm asking. So what do I need to do?
Well, contact us off the phone, and we'll get you started. Okay.
You can go to there's the Texas Republic website, which is www.texasrepublic.info, and there's my website, which is www.sovereigntyinternational.info. And either one of those, you can contact people that will help you.
Very good. I appreciate it.
Okay, George, thank you for coming on. I want to meet you back out. Yes, sir. And if you have a comment or a question for Bob Wilson of the Republic of Texas, that's what we're here for. *5 will raise your hand. And we are premiering this program here tonight on the realpublicradio.net. And every Sunday night, did I say Sunday night? Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, you'll find the Republic of Texas right here, okay? And at least up until the end of the month, but right around the end of the month, they're cutting off our phones, ladies and gentlemen, and we don't know how we're going to pay for it. I'm trying to find that multimillionaire who wants to support a good cause, but I don't know. They're hard to come by these days. So in the meantime, if you want to keep us on the air, please consider a donation, won't you? You can send the funny money through the mail by going to our contact page, or also we have a PayPal button there, okay? Any size donation will make a difference, okay? Don't think, just because you can only afford $5, it won't help. Come on, if 10 people did it, that's that's less what PayPal takes. That's about $40. So, but we're, we've been doing this for 4 years now on a song, a wing, and a prayer. We're the realpublicradio.net, and we don't take money. I didn't ask Glenn or Bob for money to produce the program. We never charge any of our hosts on here. If they want to make a donation, then any of our hosts can do that. Most of them are broke and they don't, and that's okay because we're here to provide important information for the public. We go around the world in 10 seconds, and the streaming is certainly affordable, but our phones are not. We pay a lot for the internet connection and also for the 3 phone systems that we have. Okay, so please consider it. All right, we're serving the Father above. Okay, because I'm a translator of ancient writings. Go check out the Real Da Vinci Code Dictionary and the transliterations below there. 1 John is a perfect example of what I do. Okay, I'm making history, and these are the most powerful translations in our modern time, and I'm practically out the door. Okay, and it doesn't make sense if you love God. Okay, to use a European generic term because God is not the original. Then please give us your consideration, won't you? And thanks for doing that. And it says that if you loan unto the Lord, He will repay you. Okay, and not only that, but you can feel good about it too. So thanks for that. Forgive me for rambling here, but I have to say something. Okay, we've got I like the name in this town, Liberty, Texas, and let's just get your first name, please.
Brother, this is Lionel.
What's your first name?
Lionel.
Lionel. And Lionel, you're kind of garbled. Are you on a speakerphone?
Yes, sir.
Get off the speakerphone, please.
I wish I had another phone, but I don't.
Oh, well, okay, but you wait a minute. You can't get off the speaker and onto the regular microphone?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Hold on.
All right.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's a little better. It's yeah, something with the signal, but go ahead, Lionel. We'll give it a shot.
Okay. Brother Bob.
Yes, Lionel.
I need you to help us out in that this gentleman that you just got through speaking with, we need representation.
Okay.
Every county, because without representation, we are not working as a full Congress. We are working in necessity.
Yeah. And Lionel, back away from that microphone. That may help also. You're a little overmodulated.
Okay, how about now?
A little more.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Just continue, but make it quick because your quality is really bad, and we don't want to. You know, it's killing my ears. Go ahead.
All right. But anyway, you know our needs, and Glenn knows our needs. So ask people to get together with myself or on the website and just come forward and help us. Okay?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for the word, Lionel. I will talk to him, and I'll keep putting the word out. Those who have an interest, once they've studied enough to realize that this works for them, that they'd rather operate in truth than in the fiction that most governments are today, then they can start getting ready to serve some useful purpose in this republic. You bet.
And that comes from John chapter 8, verse 32. You shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So that's what we're working for, truth. I thank you very much.
Thank
now
you.
I'll get up.
Okay. And you got to work on that phone connection there, or get another line to get on here for a good conversation. Okay, but thanks for that, and we're going to meet you out. And by the way, just want to mention, and we're going to, we have the flexibility to go over. We're not locked in on the clock, So if we have more questions, we'll try to help out, or as long as Bob and Glenn want to continue on, but we're here to serve. And as soon as this presentation is done, we're going to be doing a replay of the Wednesday night interview I did. I actually am overwhelmed. I did an interview with some new friends, and they're Amish exiles. Okay, they got kicked out of the Amish community, and I couldn't believe it when I learned that they're actually forbidden to read the English Bible and to meet in each other's homes and have Bible study. Okay, they got to read out the old High German Lutheran or they're toast. Okay, and so none of it makes any sense. But you're going to hear a story like you never heard before, and very wonderful people as well. So that'll be coming up, my Wednesday interview, okay, with the Amish exiles. So and then also the First John translation I did as well will be right after that. So you're in for a special presentation following. Okay, now we've got looks like we've got Tom in Kansas. Let me unmute you, Tom. You're on with Bob Wilson.
Hello, Bob. Hello, Glenn.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Tom.
I was looking at your TexasRepublic.eventbrite site, and it says parts of New Mexico, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Colorado and Wyoming are also parts of the Republic. And I'm in Wichita, Kansas, and I need to find out or challenge the courts here, specifically the traffic courts, that they're, in fact, operating. I know they're not operating as de jure courts, so
right.
I need to challenge them to their subject matter jurisdiction for some traffic matters, and revoked the presumption that I need a driver's license to travel my private conveyancer.
Good. The map that does appear on our webpage shows the boundaries of the Texas Republic, and I'm not familiar enough as to whether that puts Wichita in the Republic of Texas on the other side or on the outside of the border.
No, it doesn't. No, it's out in western Kansas. It's the western, like 2 or 3 counties out in the western part of Kansas.
Okay. However, you anyway have the right to challenge their form of government. In other words, the principles still remain the same. They regard you, Tom, as a corporate entity, and all you have to do is to create and file the paperwork, and you get help from us on how to do that, declaring that you are not a corporate entity, you are a flesh and blood living soul. And when it's done properly and recorded in a courthouse anywhere in the country after being notarized, and you send a copy of that to them, that can be your proof that you are not under their jurisdiction, because they only have jurisdiction over corporations, Tom.
Right.
The same principles apply. Now, they'll argue and so on, but for the most part, anything you send them, they will not acknowledge it. Now, give me a guess why they won't acknowledge it.
They don't have any authority.
They won't acknowledge it because they're a corporation and they know that you are not.
Right.
Right.
They created an artificial entity. They created an artificial entity and put your name on that artificial entity in the beginning, and usually even now, that is all capital letters. Every letter in the first, middle, and last names are capital letters, which is called a straw man, and lawyers call it a legal fiction.
If they admitted it, if they acknowledged it, they would be admitting to multiple felonies, and so they will never admit it.
And in fact, the laws will not allow them to get away with it.
Right. I realized there was 2 birth certificates too. There was a hospital birth certificate that had the straw man name on it, and then there was also a certificate of live birth that was printed on bond paper, it looks like.
And so I don't believe, and Glenn can answer this, I don't believe Glenn had to prove that he was a citizen of the Texas nation in order to be listed as a sovereign.
No, I didn't even bring that up, actually.
Yeah, so, Tom, you can be a sovereign in Kansas.
Right.
And when you show the benefits of that to your fellow Kansans, they may want to join the Republic of Texas.
Hey, forgive me for jumping in, but, I saw a great benefit in what you're talking about right there. For a certain group of people, forget about those, who want to operate safely on the road. Well, operate wouldn't be the right word, would it? Moving upon the common way. But, the CPS issues today. And so, truthfully, Glenn, this would be really good for the moms and dads who are afraid of CPS trying to round up their children, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Absolutely, because, first of all, you don't have children. Children are in the jurisdiction of the state.
Thank you.
But you do have sons and daughters, and so, that's the argument, is that, but you got to take away their presumptions. You have to do it long before they ever think about doing anything to you. And if you do it properly, then if they did come after you, you just file a criminal complaint with the U.S. Attorney General or the State Attorney General for treason, sedition, perjury of oath. All of them indictable offenses, and there's more. And then you attach your evidence, and the evidence being the fact that you already noticed them, and you have proof that you noticed them. And then the next thing I sent one of my notices to the Pennsylvania Attorney General, and one of his flunkies sent me back a letter saying that my notices says I don't have a driver's license, and I'm going to be traveling in Pennsylvania, and you don't have any more authority over me than a Walmart rent-a-cop, and you know, et cetera, et cetera. And they sent me back a letter saying that if you drive in Pennsylvania without a driver's license, we're going to arrest your butt, put you in jail. And they sent me back my letter with all their stamps on it saying it had been received. And so I put all that stuff together and made a criminal complaint, sent it to the U.S. attorney, and now they've got an acting attorney general in Pennsylvania. So, yeah. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that happens.
Glenn didn't get in trouble. The attorney general got in trouble.
That's right. That's right, because I had proof that he perjured his oath of office.
Right.
That's perjury of oath is what he did, and I had proof.
Outstanding. Okay. Tom, did you have a follow-up for Bob?
Yeah, I will contact you, I guess, through the web form and try and get some papers, maybe some form you have to send in the file with him.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Right. You can contact us through the website there. Just look for Bob Wilson, Senator, okay?
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Okay,
very good.
Tom.
Thank you.
Tom, did you have you do the water thing, don't you?
Yeah, I believe so.
Do you well, don't you have a water processing machine or something like that, a health machine?
Oh, yeah, I do. I do structured water machines, and
do you have a website?
Also, I do not. I just I don't have a website for that.
Okay.
And
real quick, just public service here. What does your water equipment do?
My water equipment takes the memory from whichever the water is filtered out of. The water actually retains the memory of what it was in the water before it was filtered, and if it had chemicals or industrial pollutants in it, it remembers it had the exact opposite polarity of the body's electrical polarity.
And the number I'm looking at. Go ahead.
My Wave Q water machine actually vortexes the water, puts a left spin energy in the water, and you actually have a water that is coherent with the body's electrical field.
Okay.
And we'll reset the body's electrical field back to its homeostasis.
Well, I'll give out your number then, okay? If people want to contact you on that, right?
That'd be great. Yeah.
316-990-7288. Okay, that's for Tom out in Kansas. He's got a wonderful water processing unit, and water is a major issue today. 316-990-7288. Okay, and if you missed that, go on the replay or give me a call, and I'll be able to get that to you. So, Tom, good to hear from you, and we're done, right? You covered everything? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, very good. We'll talk to you later, and we've got a couple more callers, so let's get right to it. We've got Anonymous is standing by. Anonymous, give us your first name, if you would, please. Hello? Anonymous,
I'm here.
What's your first name?
Well, this is Glenn.
No, Glenn, not you. I've got Anonymous. Hello? Well, Anonymous, you had your hand up.
Yes.
Are you there?
Hello? Yeah,
yes.
Sorry, I hit the wrong button.
That's okay. First name and what state you calling from?
Al from Texas.
Okay, Al, you're on with Bob Wilson.
How you doing, Mr. Wilson?
All right, Al.
I've been listening to your call. Wasn't aware of it. I think I got a clue from somebody, and I dialed in. But I wanted to ask you.
Speak up.
Okay. Am I talking loud enough now?
I'm boosting you. You're a little better. Go ahead.
All right. I mean, any more, and the mic will be in my mouth.
Okay.
All right. I was listening to you talking about, like, for example, when you have to have some type of judicial process, and I was wondering, what law form are you guys using?
Well, good question. Forms are less important in a free republic. We have county courts. Let me just clarify for you and everybody else that the subdivisions within the nation called Texas are counties only. There are no states because a nation is a state. Massachusetts was a nation. Virginia was a nation. Those nations joined together to become the states united. Okay? So each of our counties can have, and several do have, a county court with a chief justice of the county. And this judge will assemble people who live in that county to be on a common law jury. And he also can accept complaints from individuals or from the sheriff of the county and assemble a grand jury. So everything is done in plain language. No forms, codes, sticky processes. So then answering your question, the process is common law where common words make sense. There's no special vocabulary that lawyers use. And the complaint by the complainant says in plain English what the problem is, what problem he has with somebody else. And the judge's role in a common law trial after the jury has assembled, and these are peers, meaning they are likely to know either the complainer or the responder because they live in that town. Everything just proceeds the way it would in a understandable discussion, no legalese. The forms would just be pieces of paper. You know, you don't have to order forms from anybody.
Well, I meant forum. You know,
forum.
Yeah.
Well, the forum for any kind of a legal proceeding, lawful.
Well, my question is when I guess a Republic of Texas judge is going to administer justice, what forum does he use in order to make that decision?
Okay. First item, based on the last thing you said, the judge doesn't make the decision, only the jury can. That's common law.
Right.
The judge is there. The judge is there to moderate and make sure that both sides are heard fairly.
So what does the jury use?
Well, as far as a place, it could be a hotel meeting room.
No, I mean, what forum does the jury use? They have to have some foundation in order to make it.
It's all common law.
It's all common law. And in common law, they can meet any place they decide to. And use a procedure they decide to, as long as it doesn't violate the traditions found in common law.
All right. What are the traditions in common law? I'm trying to get to the very foundation of the judiciary portion of the republic. What is the foundation that they use as a mark to say this is wrong, this is injustice, this is justice? What is it?
Okay, the most basic one is, unless the person filing the complaint has evidence of being personally or financially harmed, economically harmed, then there is no case. That's the basic beginning point. Show the damage that's been done. Bring the evidence of it.
All right.
And that will get rid of probably the majority of people just frivolously trying to get back at somebody else, get revenge on somebody.
But see, you'll have the opposing party.
Sure, the opposing party is summoned to this, let's say, jury trial, And that only happens once either the sheriff or the judge or the grand jury says this is a legitimate case, right?
So
they meet.
So
the evidence
you are using legal. You said legitimate. So you are using legal.
No. Lose the word legal. Lawful.
Okay.
Everything. The content of what's been included over the last 120 years in the word legal is overwhelming, and no living person has access to it, has read it, or even understands it. Lawful. Now, common law is pretty much the golden rule.
All right, but see, you're saying lawful, but I'm still not, I need to know, what lawful are they using? Are they using equitable maxims?
Well, maxims of law come into
common law.
Yes.
Common
In
law.
other words, if I understand the question right, forgive me for jumping in. The law that rules is common law, and it means as long as you don't hurt anybody physically, you don't steal anybody's property, and you don't break any contractual obligation, then you do whatever you want in a free land.
Correct.
Right. Common law basically is following the Bible.
There is no law book of common law. There is a dictionary, starting with, the last one we tend to use is version 5 or edition 5 of Black's Dictionary of Law. But it only defines the terms.
All right, but Black's is all, legal. So I think what you're getting at is that common law is really the 19 maxims, rules, and principles of equity jurisprudence.
No. Equity is the power of the court to do whatever they want to do, and we're not interested in that.
No.
Well, see, I don't think you're correct in that.
It doesn't matter.
That's your opinion, but we don't care what your opinion is.
Okay.
Yeah, in other words, common law does not subject itself to lawyers' opinions or the opinions that people have gained by listening to or reading lawyers' statements.
Exactly.
I think I think you're. Listen, I don't want to get in an argument. Okay, you say my opinion, but see, my opinion is not my opinion. It's based on century-old books where this nation was founded prior to, the statutes and code law. Where the Declaration of Independence is recognized by, in fact, the entire world, and it states in there that my rights were granted to me by my Creator.
Right.
All right? Now, but even then, there are 19 maxims in century-old books that were used prior to the 1933 debacle in this country.
Mm-hmm.
All right, before it bellied up and put everything into trust, everything. And they use statutes and code law now on everybody until they claim differently and prove it. But anyway, I wanted to know what foundation, was being used for the judiciary portion. And if you're saying common law, I would think you're talking about the maxims, where even Christ himself gave 2 of them. And one of them was, love thy neighbor as thyself. And out of that one, 19 maxims sprung out of it. And they've been used for centuries.
Yeah, but that's not equity. That's not equity. That's common law. Equity is the power of the court. Equity is the power of the court to ignore the law and to do whatever they want to do. And we're not interested in that.
Well, see, there's 2 equities here. There's the statutory equity, and then there's the private equity between men and men. All right? The statutory equity is what they're using in the courts against people, And statutory equity, they put a value to a thing. In private equity, it's not about value, it's about rights. And you have all kinds of special rights because God.
Yeah, I think you're getting mixed up with trusts and all this other stuff, and we don't deal with that.
Okay, well, that's my question. Now I got another one. Earlier, you were talking about using silver and gold, and I guess that's the plan, right? To use silver and gold to establish a financial base for the republic.
A monetary base. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so the thing is this, as I heard that, I was thinking, well, where do you get the silver and where do you get the gold?
Why does it matter? And I'll answer.
Well, because, as many people know, gold and silver is controlled by the very wealthy. So, in a way, you have silver and gold that you have to purchase, and you can't buy it without Federal Reserve notes because they're not going to give it to you any other way. And it's controlled. So those people that control the gold and silver in the entire world actually are going to really control the economy of Texas.
Not really. And the reason is there's something called the rule of necessity. Yeah. And the rule of necessity says if in order to continue to live, work, and provide services, you have to do something, then you have the right to do it. Whether there's a law against it, for it, to enable it or not, and we operate sometimes under the rule of necessity. Now, I happen to carry a Texas driver's license. Not because I believe in the corporation called State of Texas, but because under necessity, for the time being, I needed to get on an airplane. I needed to hand to some uniformed guy that may stop me on the highway. That won't always be true, but for now, I do what is necessary to do without acknowledging that their system is correct.
You need the colorable titles in order to sustain.
I don't need their title. I don't need their title. No, I don't. No.
But you just told me you had a driver's license.
Yeah, but that's not. Yeah, if you're talking titles,
that's a colorable title.
Yeah,
it's a legal title to drive a car.
Well, that's
and you're talking trust. No. You're talking trust, and you're talking commerce, and
no, we're not. No, you're making it sound like we are, but we're really not.
I'm not talking.
All it is that some kind of photo identification seems to be demanded by many who deem themselves in authority. And instead of waging the battle with them out beside a highway, it's just more convenient to have that ID. Now, the Republic of Texas will probably have its own government-issued picture ID. But until that happens, for convenience, I carry one. Okay. But that doesn't mean that I agree with them, authorize them, or give them any jurisdiction. In fact, the first thing I say is, let's start this conversation off this way. First of all, you have no jurisdiction over me. Now, what do you want to say to me? So it's a matter of asserting what's true.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah. Whether they agree or disagree is no concern of mine because I've just asserted the truth, which is they have no jurisdiction over me. I have the right to travel as a child of God. They can't interfere in my right to travel. But it sounds to me from your whole line of argument
I'm not trying to argue.
They still have you pretty much in their cage, in their box.
No, see, you're misunderstanding me. I was just trying to get answers that the Republic is going to be using a foundation of some kind of jurisprudence, which means law. Okay, what law is like you say, common law? Well, what is that? You know, exactly what is the jury going to look at in order to distinguish one thing from another thing? You know, that was just a basic question.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the monetary system that that you brought out earlier in the call.
Mm-hmm.
You even spoke about commerce.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and commerce is what's killing all of us.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing but debt.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
because we have to use those Federal Reserve notes.
No, we don't have to. No, we don't.
Well,
within the Republic of Texas, we don't have to ever carry a Federal Reserve note.
But the thing is this: the Republic of Texas that I see is not established, and no matter where a Republic of Texas citizen may go, if he goes to, you know, Grandma and Grandpa's store, they're going to want a Federal Reserve note.
Well, that just shows that you haven't investigated enough yet, Al, because there are upwards of 20,000 merchants of various kinds providing goods and services in Texas who today will accept silver, gold, or copper money issued by the Republic of Texas in return for goods and services. And that is a form of barter. I have something with its own value. They have something I want. We exchange value for value, and no Federal Reserve notes are needed.
But you need them to get the gold and silver to distribute.
Well, there's also a way of trading, though. You don't have to use Federal Reserve notes to acquire gold or silver. You can trade for it. There's other things. Bob, and I think in the question that was just prior to this, if I understand correctly, you know, and I'm not the expert in law, but it seemed to me that, you know, in England they had the King's common law. In America we had the Christian common law. So I think that would be the what you were looking for, right? Isn't that
sure.
what
you're talking about? I think Al's question is, what book do you find that in?
I see. Well, that would be based on scriptures primarily.
It's not in a book. That's the whole idea of common laws. It's the unwritten law.
Yeah, well, that's true. Now, I just want to say, Al, we're trying to wind down, and we got a couple more questions, and I like your call. Why don't you follow up next Saturday and come on a little earlier? You know, so if you want to, if you're still trying to figure it out, or, you know, I think you're not. I think you're trying to be as constructive as possible and answer your own questions. And so, but it's getting late, and we have a follow-up broadcast, and we also have two more questioners right now. You want to make a final point, and then we'll have you back next week?
No, I don't want to make a point. I'm just a person calling in, asking questions.
Right. Well, great. Well, we're very grateful to have you. I'm sorry it's so late. I actually, to support the network, have to work in the morning, and so I got to. Otherwise, I would stay up till midnight. I wouldn't mind, but I've really got to watch the clock. So it was Al, correct?
Yes.
And Al, where are you out in Texas, right?
Yeah, I'm in Texas.
Well, good deal. Okay, well, look, come on back next week, and you know, this is an intellectual challenge to try to answer your questions, and I think it's good for conversation, and so therefore I think
there's one thing I'd like to say, Mr. Owl.
Yeah,
is that
just call me Desert. I don't go by Mr. No mystery.
Okay, no Meester, no Meester, huh?
No Meister. Go ahead.
All right, listen. A gentleman just stated something about, you know, common law is the unwritten law. But, you know, I think he's wrong, and I say it respectfully. Common law that is centuries old comes from the Word of God. And I don't know, if he would like to get him pointed out to him, that's fine. I mean, I've studied the Bible myself.
Right.
But they're all in there, 19 of them.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, very often, you know, the funny thing is about this, the issue of law, and I've done 7-day-a-week broadcasting of different law researchers, some in commerce, some statutory, some, you know, like sovereignty, like Glenn Winningham is doing, and or like Jackie Margie Flynn, the presumptive letter and the Constitution. There's literally a dozen different approaches to what we call the law, and then we can talk about the scriptural as well, spiritual law, and then natural law, right? So the thing is, very often our perceptions or our for lack of a better word, convictions are derived based on a different perspective. And the problem we have today is because of the regal, of the principalities that try to rule us on earth, and then also the legislative, and then what do you want to call it, writers of these statutory codes, rules and regulations, secret contracts, and everything else. There's very often it gets convoluted, and so we've got, like I say, a dozen different approaches to what we call the law, and for each one of these experts that are convinced their way is the best, it generally very often works for them because they're so committed and so finite in their ability to approach it, whereas then other people, when they try to do it, they're not successful, and it's because they were not the ones to have perfected it, and therefore they're trying, and then they very often lose. There's some. What is the answer? I couldn't give it off the top of my head. I think, it is. It's for me. It's the spiritual, because I was challenged once and I got railroaded, and they took my life away. I have the record for the longest case in West Virginia's history, and I had 3 death threats when I got to prison. I'd be killed. And I was up against MK Ultra, mind control, the Ku Klux Klan, the Freemasons, and the state of West Virginia, and a bunch of criminals all rolled into one. And I was at the wrong place at the wrong time and fell victim to a sting operation. And so I knew, Sun Tzu says in The Art of War, you have to know who you are. If you absolutely want to win a war or a battle, you have to absolutely know who you are, and you have to absolutely know who they are, and you have the best chance of ever winning. And I knew who I was, I knew who I'd been serving all my life, and I knew who they were. And therefore, when they wanted to, offer me a trial or or anything, plea bargain, whatever, I knew I wasn't going to want to play poker with the mafia. They already stung me. They already framed me for something they committed, a crime they committed, and were going to put me away for the rest of my life. If they had the death penalty, they would have given it to me. And so rather than want to play their phony little charade, I refused to even. I got the first attempt in the courtroom. I tried to speak to the judge and point out that the sheriff was guilty of a conspiracy to commit murder. And after he picked his jaw back off the ground, then proceeded to move on with his phony trial. And so from that point on, I said, well, since you're not willing to listen to me, I guess there's nothing more to talk about. That was on the television news. And from that point on, I realized I wasn't going to talk to them anymore, wasn't going to receive any of their mail, wasn't going to talk to any attorneys, and I was just going to meditate and pray, take free food, and just get as much reading in on the scriptures as I possibly could, and become a monk. And I realized the truth. The truth was, when they thought they had me in their court, which is a phony criminal charade, I knew the truth. And the truth was, I had them in my court. My court is the one supreme court of the universe, and it's run by the one who made it all. And so I knew my best shot of ever getting free was to stay in that court and not to move out of it. And because I could do no paperwork anyway, and I had virtually no friends that could help me. I was pretty much a loner in my own walk, and therefore didn't have a large cartel of people to help me out. And so I got beaten up in a courtroom for not wanting to sit with the attorneys. They tried to do it a second time after they stomped on my chains, broke the nerves in my hand, and said, "You're going to go in there and sit with those attorneys now?" And I quoted Jeremiah. It says, "Woe unto the man who puts his trust in man. I stand with the Lord." So they went and told the judge that, and he said, "Okay." And for the rest of that 26 months of hell, I sat on the sideline while they had their phony little charade, and I never said another thing in the courtroom. And then they put me in a mental hospital to think they could maybe declare him mentally incompetent, or maybe we want to try him. We're not sure. Should we get him mentally incompetent, put him away in a mental hospital the rest of his life, or to have a trial? And then finally, they decided to have the trial. But at the last hearing, I'm sitting there silent, and then the judge finally says, well, I know Desert Owl can hear me over there. He apparently doesn't want to talk to anybody. But I found out that my silence was really my greatest, and forgive me for grandstanding here, but, this guy's been trying to pull out some answers, and sometimes there's not an easy answer, and so I want to give my position when I had a struggle here because it's relevant. And so I found at the beginning when after I found out they weren't going to talk to me, and the judge would come in, they say everybody rise. Now I'm framed for first-degree murder, and you would think anybody would want the favor of a judge in something like that, right? But I, again, knowing the truth, I stayed seated because I'm not standing for anybody but my Redeemer. And so the judge walks in, I stare him right in the eye while he walks past me, and everybody's standing but me, and I'm the guy in a pumpkin suit with chains on, And so after about 3 times, then when the bailiff would come in, and for the judge, he'd say, everybody remain seated. And from that point on, nobody ever stood up in the courtroom again for the judge. And I found out I had a little bit of power, and that even like at the last hearing before the first trial, he said, well, I know Desert Owl can hear me, and I'm going to say a few things to him, and blah, blah, blah. And the whole courtroom was packed, and I saw these people staring at me, And I realized that the people know something's up. They don't know fully what it's all about, but they know that this isn't natural, that a guy facing life without mercy, first-degree murder, wouldn't just throw away his entire shot at, being set free, but they didn't know, what was in me. And so anyway, then at the bottom line at the end, and I had visions and dreams throughout the entire process. My father told me he's getting me out. The right people at the right time at the last moment came forward. The second trial, I was condemned at the first trial, life without mercy, never coming out. You're going to be dead when you get there because you've been exposing the Klan and Freemasons all your life, and there they are running the prison. So good luck. And but they held me back. They immediately had another trial. These attorneys got then even Cyril Wecht, who actually, as a forensics expert in the second trial, because I wouldn't talk to him, I found out the more I rejected the attorneys and didn't even want to talk to them, the more they wanted to help. It was really funny. And the judge found out he couldn't get a legitimate jury, in the community because it was all criminal. So he actually went to Nebraska to have them pick the jury pool. And so the more I did everything like that, the judge even wanted to make a legitimate trial. He was fed up with it all. And so the spirit of my father was turning things around. People were talking about me, saying, yeah, we know Desert's innocent. Man, and the whole charade, this little clique, this whole cartel of criminals was suddenly standing all alone. Nobody wanted to stand with them because they were going against a true freedom-loving American, one who they knew was patriotic, dedicated his entire life to serving, and he's being railroaded by a bunch of criminals. And when I found out all their lies, like, I could go on, but what I'm telling you is that when you really know who you are and the higher power, you don't even need paperwork because the truth can set you free. And somebody said that earlier, I think. And so that's my story. And therefore, there's 100 different approaches, but we certainly want the best approach. And I think what Bob here with the Texas Republic and Glenn are trying to do is keep it simple, because common law is simple in its basic essence. And so that's my story. Forgive me. Back to you guys.
Hey, Desert, I appreciate your honesty. Mm-hmm. When earlier you stated natural law. Well, that's what equitable maxims used to be called.
Right. And natural law I consider to be actually very connected with the spiritual law. Only perhaps it's one is based on earth versus based on in the clouds.
Well, thank you for allowing me to ask questions, and I'll certainly consider next Saturday. I do not want to be confrontational.
No, you're not. You're not at all. No.
Okay. I appreciate that. No, thank you.
Conversation is good, and it helps us to come to a higher truth. So come on back, and I'm going to go ahead and mute you out now. And Bob, you're still up to taking 2 more?
Sure, and thanks for calling in, Al. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right. We got you muted out, and let's go to. I see we've got Bob again in Yoakum, Texas, but first we've got. How do I say the name of this town? Perrin, Texas. Just state your first name. Okay. That didn't work. Perrin. I didn't even tell the whole story, but I think everybody got the idea. I'm a free man today because I knew who I was. Okay, Perrin, Texas, state your first name. Hello? 940.
Actually, there's just as a side note to your story there, Desert. There's a Supreme Court case that says that they can't put you in jail unless they give you a lawyer to represent you.
Yeah, well, they did. They were doing that without my approval, of course. You know, they just ignored me from that point on.
so then the answer is to fire the sucker.
Right.
And if you don't have a lawyer representing you, then they can't put you in jail.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah. Well, I was in the drunk tank for a month because I wouldn't sign in, so they had to declare me mentally incompetent, to get me in there.
Well, they're going to try and play all sorts of games, right?
Oh, yeah. Now, Perrin, Texas, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, good to have you. What's your first name?
Willa.
Willa, good to have you. You're on with Bob.
Hello.
You're there.
Hi, Willa.
Yes. Can you hear me? I'm on a speakerphone.
Well, you need to get off that speakerphone, Willa. That'll help us out, please.
Okay, is that better?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. This is rather a little bit calm after all these wonderful things I've been hearing, but it's just a couple of points that I would like for Bob to clarify for some of the people. I have some people that live in one part of Oklahoma that belongs to the Republic of Texas, and they are concerned about what's going to happen to my land. They've been Okies all their life, and now they're finding out that they're wonderful. It's wonderful that they're going to be Texans, but they wonder if they're going to lose their land. The second thing is that some of them that have jobs in the corporate world, and they're thinking, they're just going to be sucked out of their chair and not have a job. So if Bob will clarify what will happen with the jobs under the corporation, which we're going to need them, and what will happen to the land in the parts of the other states that belong to Texas.
Okay, thank you, Willa.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to interrupt here, but should we say who Willa is?
Well, you can. Go ahead, Glenn.
Okay, I'm sorry, what was your question?
I think Glenn is just going to qualify who you are, Willa.
Yes, I'm the Vice President of the Republic of Texas.
Right on. That's right. Excellent. Thank you for calling in.
Honored to have you. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We appreciate the program.
Yeah. The simple answer first, Willa. Probably nothing at all, because land rights they stand alone. As you know, there are two general land offices in the North American continent, including the U.S. and Texas. One is in Austin, Texas, for all of Texas, including parts of those states we've mentioned several times, including Oklahoma. The other is somewhere in the state of Virginia, and it keeps the land records for the other 49 states. You see, because that's real estate. It's not fakey estate.
Yeah, right. And there's a difference between real estate and real property.
Right. See, because they'll use words like motor vehicle or person intentionally to deceive everyone. And so nearly everyone's still deceived by those words.
Right.
Personal property is a trick word to cheat people with. Anyway, real property is recorded in a land office. It's based on a real patent issued by a real government long, long ago, and for some amount of money and an expert who knows how to do it. If you own your land, including buildings, you can have that brought up to date, and it will be your land patent, and nobody has any claim on it. I'm going to use a funny word here. Once you have a land patent, your land is not lienable. It is unalienable, and that's the real meaning of what people pronounce as unalienable or inalienable. It's beyond a lien, because in God's law and in America's history, land stays with who owns it. Now, so nothing will happen to their land. Now, that doesn't mean that some de facto fraud won't come and say, I have a paper here that says that we can kick you off your land and sell it on the courthouse steps. Well, you just tell them, hey, good luck with that, but get off my doorstep before I call the sheriff, you know. Because you're committing fraud, and I know you are, and down deep you know you are. What they're trying to get you to do is abandon the home. Abandon your land out of fear, and then they just march in and claim it as abandoned land. I've had two close friends who have, quite some years ago, both lost their homes over this very same thing. It is a snow job, it is a fraud, and it is a con game. So that's the least of their worries. Now, what about their job? Do they work for the government?
Yes. Well, actually, they work in corporate jobs.
Oh.
Not always for the government, but for corporations and the government.
Yeah, well, the corporation isn't likely to do anything if they are a valuable employee. And you know why? Because good help is harder and harder to find nowadays. People who have the experience, the skills, the background knowledge, and all the other stuff. But if it's a government corporation, they can be very retaliatory. So the best thing to do is what Glenn has taught many of us to do, and that is be preemptive. And your friends in Oklahoma need to know this. A preemptive strike, we think about the nation Israel waging a preemptive strike to prevent somebody from doing something harmful to them. The same thing happens here. The preemptive strike in this case is to assert in a sworn affidavit that's duly recorded in a courthouse that you have done your job satisfactorily, you've received raises and commendations, etc., and that if they try to retaliate against you in some way, you will take them to a common court and you will win.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir, I do. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the preemptive thing to do is to beat them to it. Now, the other value of doing it first is once you have this document notarized and recorded, and you send it to that, let's say, government employer 3 times by certified mail, they probably will not respond to it because they're afraid of it, they're confused, they don't know what they're doing. See, they're out of their element here because they understand legalese, but they don't understand common law. If they do respond, they have admitted that you're right, that you are a sovereign. If they then discharge this Oklahoma party person, excuse me, I keep using their words, this Oklahoma human being here, then there's going to be a lot of penalties accruing on them, which they want to avoid. You've given them fair notice that they're treading on dangerous ground. Glenn, you had any comment on that?
If you do it properly, and well, first of all, if you're working under a social security number, then it becomes very difficult because they can basically proceed against the straw man, and you know you're kind of screwed. At least that's been my experience. But again, if you do this, you go after them preemptively. If you do it properly, you can make it very difficult for them. And in fact, you can make it so that they just, they won't want to address the issue. You can make it. I mean, I've had people. I think I've got people in jail over stuff that I did. and they'll never, the stuff you can accuse them of, and this is, you ought to do a search on the internet for estoppel certificates, and the ones that you'll find will be in landlord-tenant situations. But these estoppel certificates, you can use them, and that's essentially what I do with my documents. Is my documents are full of estoppel certificates, and it's basically, I tell them what they're going to do, and I tell them, and I go through and explain how they're perjuring their oath by doing it, and once I do that, then if they went ahead and did it, then they would be perjuring their oath, and I'd have proof. But as with anything, I always use registered mail because registered mail is proof of service. Certified mail really isn't proof of anything. So I like to use registered mail, and I just get right up in their face and see who blinks first, and they always blink first.
Okay. I guess that I've explained to these people, that own their land. It's near Trinidad, Colorado, and some in Oklahoma. And I've explained to them that I think that all that they will have to do is go ahead and bring their documents to the General Land Office for the Republic of Texas and just refile in the Republic of Texas. Is that correct?
That would be a first step, yes. Mm-hmm.
Are the documents their land documents, the original land patents? Are they U.S. land patents or Texas land patents?
No, they have to be the original ones because they actually are registered in Oklahoma and Colorado.
I understand that, but there's parts of.
I'm sorry.
There's parts of Oklahoma and Colorado that are part of the Republic of Texas, and so and the original land documents would have been issued by Texas.
Okay, well then I don't know if theirs are like that or not, but I will find out because I know that I think we talked about it one time some time ago, and I got the impression that what we would do would refile as Republic of Texas land if the part of Oklahoma is, the part that belongs to Texas.
Right, and you could talk to our General Land Commissioner about that and get some advice.
Okay.
Yeah. Or if what I would do is you could actually call up the Texas Land Commissioner. If you get a property tax, you need to get the survey. That's what you need is the survey, and what you do is you go down to the county assessor's office. If it's in the Republic of Texas, you go to the county assessor's office, whether it's in Colorado or wherever, and there'll be a survey. And the survey is basically the patent number that was originally issued by Texas. And once you get that survey, then you can, with that survey number, it'll be like the Smith survey number 237 or something like this. Mm-hmm. And so then you call up the Texas Land Commissioner, and they'll send you a certified copy of the original land patent. The other choice is to go on the BLM's website, and you can find, I've been out, found land patents for land that I bought in Arizona on the BLM's website. So if it's not a Texas land patent, it'll the only other place is BLM, and you can go on their website and search for it there.
Okay, but it sounds like there's not going to be any problems there because the Republic of Texas is going to need exactly the same jobs, or they're going to need the jobs that these people are filling, especially if they're good workers and everything. And I just need to put their mind to rest that they're not going to be just kicked out or off their land or anything. And then, of course, they've got neighbors and everything that they're talking to. They're really happy that they're going to be part of Texas because they've always wanted to live in Texas, and now they know that they do. So it's really great.
What you
yeah.
Go ahead, Will. Go ahead.
Well, it really shouldn't. I mean, you're talking about having them, basically become a citizen of the Republic of Texas. If that's what you're talking about, that shouldn't affect anything.
it really won't then, and I can just put their little minds at rest now. So I do appreciate the answer, Bob, and both of you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
But the fear that you mentioned, Willa, is their primary weapon to stay in power. They were afraid they might lose their job and lose their land, and they worked that to the nines.
The thing is that everything's kept. Every issue is a separate issue. The courts look at everything as a separate issue, and so as with anything, the way I do it is I look at any potential way that they can attack me, and those are the people that I start sending my notices out to. For example, you're driving down the road. Well, there's always the potential of getting stopped by the cops. So who do I administrate with the cops? Well, I administrate the chief of police. I'd find out who the local prosecutor is here, and I'd administrate him. And I'd find out who the local judge is here, and I'd administrate him. Then I'd look at, there's always the potential I get stopped by the highway patrol. So then I'd administrate the state police director and the attorney general, and then there's always the potential I get stopped by the county sheriff. So then I go after send the county sheriff one, and I send the county attorney one, and I send the chief judge in the county court. So that's what you do. If you think that you might get something from the city telling you to cut your grass or something stupid like that, then you send it to the city attorney and to the you already sent something to the chief of police, so he's covered. But then now you send something to the city attorney and maybe even to Child Protective Services. All that stuff is available on the internet. So if somebody's worried about their children, then you find out who the local bureaucrat is for Child Protective Services. And you start administrating him, and the whole idea is to lay a foundation so that you have proof if they ever did look at you wrong, that you'll have proof that they perjured their oath, and you can go after them.
Okay.
Yeah, and as you've told us, Glenn, you want to administer the highest authority in any of those organizations.
Right. Don't worry about. There's too many of them to go after every flunky. You go after the boss, because that's where the buck stops, and the boss is the guy that's got the oath of office. A lot of these flunkies don't have an oath of office. Like I was in Arizona at the Motor Vehicles Division, and I was complaining about what they were doing, and you're perjuring your oath of office, and they come out and tell me, I don't have an oath of office. And so most of these flunkies don't have an oath of office, but the commissioner or whoever's running the show, he does, I guarantee you, and the attorney general has one, and they all have attorneys that are in there, and all of those guys have oaths, and so, you go after the person that's got the oath.
And that person is the most afraid of losing his job because he makes a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and that's the guy. That's the guy that makes those kinds of decisions too.
Right. Yeah.
Well, the calls have been real informative tonight. I've been listening, and by the way, you cannot be. I can't get it on the computer. I've got the website up and everything, but it's not talking there.
Okay. Did you clicked on the listen live button, Willa?
Yeah, it says click here to listen.
Yeah.
And I've clicked and it doesn't do anything.
Okay. Try to get somebody who knows computers and have them check it out. I don't know the answer to that.
Well, the phone works fine, but I just thought that there's probably a lot of people that. In fact, I was sitting here just waiting for us to come on, and I thought, well, the phone is a solution. So thank you so very much, and God bless you all.
Oh, thank you.
Does your computer have speakers in it?
Yes.
And then is the volume turned up in your computer?
Yeah, I've been listening to the music. In fact, the music, I'm going to put it on now.
Okay. Well, that's just the website music. but the click on the Listen Live button is, over there on the right. Yeah.
Right, but it's not doing either. It says click to listen.
Right, you just need to get a computer guru, to check it out. It's probably something software related, or it's hard to say. Different computers sometimes are lacking something that just needs an adjustment. So.
Well, mine's kind of a little Mickey Mouse one anyway, so maybe that's what it is.
It could be Mickey, sure. Okay.
All righty. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Well, nice
Bob, I
want
to offer a word of explanation, clarification. I made some sort of a typographic error that the Texas Republic program began at 8 p.m. Central. That was what went out on most of the people's email alerts to their friends. So, to encourage you, Desert, we'll get that corrected, and we probably should have a lot more callers.
Oh, yeah, and everybody, please tell your friends about the Republic of Texas gathering every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the RealPublicRadio.net, okay? And don't forget, we're final thoughts here, but coming up next, we got the Amish Exiles. You want to meet Ian Miller. He's got 13 children, and they got banished from the Amish community, believe it or not, for wanting to read the English Bible in their homes, okay? So the truth is stranger than fiction, but this is a story you got to hear, and they're also featured on the BBC documentary as well, so it's rather profound. Stand by for that broadcast. Okay, Bob and Glenn, final thoughts?
This has been very good, I think. I'm looking forward to more.
Okay, absolutely. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. I feel like I'm back in Texas all of a sudden, so and the hard way. And so anyway, very good. Okay, then, and give out websites again, please.
The website is texasrepublic.info.
Okay, texasrepublic.info. And Glenn, you want to give out your website for anybody studying sovereignty?
If he's not there, his is sovereigntyinternational. Oh boy, do I remember? .net or .com? I think it's .com.
Okay. Well, anyway, or just come back next week and you'll get that information. Yeah. So, Bob, good spending some time with you tonight. Look forward to having you next week, okay?
Thank you very much.
All right, and good night. And please don't forget, everybody, we're scheduled to be off the air in one of the worst financial crises we've ever had, okay, with the network in 4 years now. It's gotten bad, and because we're non-commercial, we're not selling anything. We're doing it on a song, a wing, and a prayer. So please consider a donation on PayPal. Go to our contact page. We got a free sample of our Real Da Vinci Code Dictionary. We're going to batch print our books at 25 at a time, maybe as few as 10, but we still need the advance payment if you want to get that, okay? So thanks for doing that. I'm Desert Owl, the producer of the RealPublicRadio.net. Now get ready for an outstanding spiritual experience with the Amish people. These are the most beautiful people on earth, and there's a YouTube associated with it, and you can get it. Just hit me up on the contact page by email, okay? And I'll send you the YouTube that you can look at as well. Here we go. The Amish Exiles on the Forbidden History series. What they didn't want you to know, what we tell right here. Stand by for the broadcast. And don't forget, tomorrow night, we got the Victim in Prison Outreach Program. We are all doing time at 6:30. Note that the following views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily the views nor the opinions of the Master Force Group, Free America Radio Network, our sponsors, our partners, and MFG is a private society, and nothing here reserved to be construed as medical nor legal advice. And listen to the Forbidden History prime time 7 days a week right here on the RealPublicRadio.net, because hidden beneath the sands of time lies the greatest of all mysteries. It's the Forbidden History.